Try that. Okay, sorry. Call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. And the first thing I want to do is recognize Emily Kay, a new member. So welcome to the board. Thank you. And then I'll also point out, just in case it makes a difference to you, we have 3 members here today. To approve or deny anything, it takes 3 votes. So you got to get 3 out of 3 that are here. And we'll ask for continuances, so if anybody wants to request a continuance to the next docket for the full board, that's fine with me. So next item is to receive the minutes. Everybody look at the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion that we receive the minutes.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Cast your votes to receive the minutes. All right, move that over to the next meeting. We'll receive then. Okay, next. Continuance requests, withdrawals. Mine says none. By staff or applicants. Anybody?
We have one that's item number 2, case number 15704 at 424 Northwest 27th Street. It's on the agenda and they want it moved to August 15th.
Okay. We're looking at item number 2, case 15704. Request for a continuance on that one. Is everybody here on that matter? Okay. A motion.
I'd like to make a motion to continue case number 15704 to the, what date do we have? To the August 15th meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to defer. Cast your votes.
See how it's up there on the screen.
Okay, that one's continued. Does anybody else have a request to continue an item? Okay, I don't have a consent docket, so Cindy, you want to call the first one, please?
So we have item number 1, case number 15703 is a request of Charles Allen on behalf of Orion Property 3 LLC for the variance of an encroachment into the platted 15-foot building line located at 8000 North Side Drive.
Okay.
My name's Charles Allen with Allen Engineering, 1601 Southwest 89th Street. This is a project that I probably shouldn't even be here, but here I am today, so I appreciate being on the list first. I'll be kind of brief. This is a metal building that actually was ordered while we were in the kind of pre-development stage, going through construction. We recognized that the building was too large for the lot. Went through some redesign on the foundation, had the metal building come up with a fix for the problem. All these things were supposed to be in motion. Unfortunately, when the building was built, we were constructing the parking lot, found out the building was 5 foot wider than it was actually supposed to be, which puts it over the front building line about 3 feet. So that's why we're here today, is to request a variance.
Any
Happy
questions?
to answer any questions.
Questions, comments from the board?
No.
All right. Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion then.
I move approval of the variance.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you. Apologize for the inconvenience.
Okay, item number 2 was deferred. We're on item number 3, case number 15633, request of Merritt Baker on behalf of Sean Lisenberry for a variance to lot size requirements for a mobile home in the R1 district located at 4902 South Post Road.
Anybody here on that one? Okay, let's just put that at the bottom of the docket, see if anybody shows up.
Okay, item number 4, case number 15684 is a renewal application of Douglas Lister and Jamie Day Lister to allow home sharing located at 1615 North Marion Avenue.
Okay, is anybody here on that one? Okay, let's move it to the bottom.
Item
try
number
another one.
5, case number 15687, a renewal application of Austin Cone on behalf of 4 Big Properties to allow home sharing at 1442 Northwest 41st Street.
Good afternoon, Austin Kane here. We're requesting a renewal for the home sharing license. We've had it for 2 years now, and there's no changes to the previous application that we had submitted 2 years ago.
What's this address? 14?
1442 Northwest 41st? Is that a question?
Yes.
What's the status of the property?
No. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. I had a different address on my screen. So.
I do have a couple of letter recommendations from current neighbors, and so I think we've done a good job in the neighborhood of making sure everybody's taken care of.
I may have not been present when the initial exception was granted, but you've got 2 bedrooms on this?
Yeah, it's a 2-bed, 2-bath. There's a long driveway with a carport, so there's actually parking spots for 4 vehicles in the driveway. We've had people stay there before that have horse trailers, that have been able to stay in the driveway, so it's a big, long driveway. Up to 6 people occupancy inside of the home.
And how are we getting to the 6th guest?
We have a pull-out couch in the living room. Rarely does it ever get 6. It's usually about 4. It's 3 to 4.
Any other questions or comments from the board? I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? And I didn't see quiet hours on your sheet.
It would be on,
Begins at 9. I don't think you have an ending time.
we do have it at 9 p.m.
Okay,
Would you-
sorry, I missed it.
Would you be fine from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And you said you can fit 4 cars in the driveway?
In the driveway.
Okay.
Nothing on the street.
any other questions or comments from the board? I guess we're ready for a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve case number 15687 on the basis that it meets the requirements for a special exception with the following modifications: a maximum of 4 cars with no on-street parking and quiet hours to be from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. and for a period of 3 years.
And I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Whoops, I need to get out of this.
You're just trying to make me nervous.
I was waiting for it.
made the motion and I also vote yes. I don't have anything I've refreshed, so I've got the.
Well, I probably should have waited.
Gonna just do a roll call vote? Marcus said yes, I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
There we go.
Thank you for your time.
You're approved.
Okay.
Can I go back?
I might have.
Item number 6, case number 15693, is a renewal application of Victor Sabahani to allow home sharing at 12905 West Park Place.
Good afternoon. My name is Victor Sohani, 12905 West Park Place, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I would like to request a renewal of application for special exception for home sharing and no changes to the status of the property.
And this is a 4-bedroom? A 4-bedroom property?
4-bedroom, yes.
How many bathrooms?
2.5 bathrooms.
And you previously had a 1-year special exception?
This
You're-
is the second year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else from the board? No one signed up to speak on this application. Is there anybody who wants to address us on his application? We're ready for a motion.
What we typically do, if there's not any issues in that first year, is we typically grant a 3-year. And so if you're okay with that, I'm going to make a motion for 3
That will
years.
be fine. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15693 on the basis that it meets the requirements for a special exception for a period of 3 years.
And I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
No, it's completely gone. I've tried to restart it a couple times.
It's waiting.
Oh,
You want to do a roll call?
Okay, Mr. Udi, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Voorhees?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchelson?
yes.
So,
Okay,
it's approved.
There we go.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Item number 7, case number 15705, is a renewal application of Jeff Cooper for just to allow home sharing at 11208 Blue Stem Drive.
Yes, my name is Jeff Cooper, and I'm here to renew the application for a special exemption for 11208 Blue Stem Drive, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Oh, and there are no changes to how it's set up from before.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board?
4-bedroom property?
Yes, sir. 4-bedroom with 3 full bath.
And I see you've got quiet hours listed here. You've got 10 years in the application. I'm sure you heard me previously state on the first renewal, we typically go to 3 years. You okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Got anybody here to speak on this one?
Yeah, I've got one person signed up, Rebecca Farrow. Okay.
I'm with Jeff Cooper. I'm just here just in case I need to speak on anything, so I have no opposition or anything against it.
Just give us your name and address, and you're not here to protest.
Correct. Rebecca Farrow, 617 North Hollyway in Mustang, Oklahoma.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to address the board on this application? Okay, I guess we're ready for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15705 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception for a period of 3 years.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
He's not getting the screen.
Yeah, he's not getting the screen. Just call him.
Okay.
Just say, just go, roll call.
Okay, so Mr. Udi, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Voorhees?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchelson?
Yes.
So all three affirm it's approved.
Okay, you're approved.
So we have item number 8, case number 15706 is a renewal application of Jeff Cooper of Just Like Home Rentals to allow home sharing, 3417 12 Oaks Road.
Yes, my name is Jeff Cooper, 3417 12 Oaks Road, asking for extension. There are no changes to the way that it's written up.
Okay. Rebecca, you signed up on this one. Same thing as last one?
Yes, my name is Rebecca Farrow at 617 North Hollyway in Mustang, Oklahoma, and I have no opposition.
Okay. Nobody else signed up to speak on this one? If there's nothing else from the board and, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Come on up, give us your name and address, sorry.
My name is William Dinwoody. I am, my property is adjacent to 3417 12 Oaks Road. I own the property at 3425 12 Oaks Road. I've lived there for over 40 years. And this situation is disturbing for me at the least. I believe that I'm looking at item number 6 that was entered into the proceedings last time, and I want to address the smoking, parking, and trash that we are faced with on different occasions. We have, or my family has noticed the strong odor of marijuana and these electronic cigarettes emanating from the property. We have witnessed at least one situation where there was another animal involved on the property, a dog. The parking, according to this item number 6, is to be in the rear of the house. There have been occasions when that has happened, and there's been occasions where people who have been occupying the house have been repairing their work trucks for days on end. There is parking in the front of the house as of the last 2 tenants on the driveway and on the street. We had a situation where we went 3 weeks where the trash piled up, not in containers, but at the side of the house, which attracted vermin, skunks, and possums. Finally, on the 4th week, the trash got out. My wife, we're obviously in our later stages in life, has Alzheimer's. And the comings and goings from the house are not conducive to her situation, and it obviously creates stress throughout the house. My son has moved back into the house. He commutes to Tulsa for his job every day to help take care of my wife and give me a break. My daughter has moved back into the house. She was domiciled outside of the country. She's back at the house. And we just are at our wits' end that this situation has been allowed to occur. I believe those are my notes, and I appreciate you listening. And I do have a letter from another neighbor who could not come to the meeting today. Can I enter that into the?
Sure, give it to either Sarah or you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay. And I apologize, I do see you signed that.
Well,
I missed it.
you heard me, and that's all that counts. Thank you.
Anything from the board?
Just if the applicant wants to address those statements.
I'm sorry, what?
Do you want to address any of those statements regarding the property?
Yes. So I'm sorry for, to Mr. Dunwoody, by the way, and, what their family's going through. I can absolutely relate, to that. Surrounding the specific things, Mr. Dunwoody mentioned that there was a dog there. Like, it's our self-enforced rules to say no dogs allowed, but sometimes people have service dogs, and so I think we're required to make exceptions in those cases. And so, yes, we did have a dog there. The comments surrounding the parking, it's not only allowed to be in the rear. I got approval last time for it to be in the front circle drive, as well as the back drive as well, and that was approved and acknowledged last time. And so, yes, some people do park in the front, and then some people park in the back. I know the work group that was there, that was working on their vehicle, it was in the back, which has an alley entrance and a fence, all around. So they weren't working on their truck on the street or in the front drive or anything along those lines. And we do apologize for the one tenant that was lax in taking out the trash. It was not one of the tenants that would fit under this 30-day or less. It was a 3-month work group that was there. And of course, they take the trash out on their own, once a week. And once we did learn that they'd missed the trash day, then, we told them to take care of it, and they did. But again, that was a 3-month tenant that was staying there.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Yes, sir? Come on back up so we can get it on the record, please.
I'd like to see where it's on the record that they park in the front. My notes indicate that it has to be in the back. He said it was approved in the last meeting. I thought I had the current notes. Maybe I don't.
In my application, it does say no front parking. I don't recall, I don't have the record as far as what was officially approved, but the application
Well, I'd
says-
like to go on the record that I certainly would like to see that in writing. That it has been approved for the parking in the front for sure. Thank you.
How many cars can you fit in the rear of the property?
The rear of the property could fit 8 vehicles, and then the front can easily fit 5.
So with a maximum of 8 guests, we'd still be okay with reducing it to just parking in the rear?
No, we prefer to allow both, and they agreed to that last time. Sometimes people, and it was actually recommended by the board because the back has, like its entrance is 122nd Street, which is a very busy road, which can be dangerous for people. And so it was actually the recommendation here to allow it in the front, and I certainly agree with that. And sometimes, I might have, I had 3 friends of mine from Dallas come up when we threw my daughter's baby shower, and they stayed at the house, so they didn't have to get a hotel. And so there's a number of times that we will use the front. Our clean team goes by, I go by, and so we would prefer to be able to access the front driveway that's there.
Is this the same application that was submitted initially?
Yes, sir.
Sarah, do you guys show anything different? Because if the initial board approved this application, and I may have been on the board, I don't recall, but if the initial board approved this application, absent any modifications, the application they would have approved would have prohibited parking in the front.
I think what we'd like to do is pull the board order from the last approval. I recall this case, and I thought the discussion was about access. I don't recall parking off the top of my head, so I think I'd prefer to pull the board order, and we could probably do that pretty quickly here.
Sure.
Just not right on the spot, maybe a little bit later down the docket.
I'm okay with that.
Let's just move it to the end and give you a chance to look. So hang on. You need a few minutes to get that pulled up? Do you need a few minutes to get that pulled up? Okay, let's move this to the bottom of the docket and give her a chance, and we'll move on to the next one. I think that's you all.
Yes, sir. The
Yep,
next one is
it's
me
you
as well.
too.
Yes, sir.
Item number 9, case number 15707. It's a renewal application of Jeff Cooper of Just Like Homes for home sharing at 3346 Northwest Grand Boulevard.
Yes, Jeff Cooper, I'm looking to renew the special exception granted at 3346 Northwest Grand Boulevard, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The layout and makeup of the home is the same.
Anything from the board on this one?
Yeah, how do we get to 12 guests on this one?
So it's a 5-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 4 full bath home. In the master bedroom, there's a king-size bed and a queen-size pullout. In the next bedroom, there's a queen-size bed and a full-size pullout. In the next bedroom, there's 4 twin beds, 2 bunk beds. In the next bedroom, there's 2 full-size beds. And in the last bedroom, which is also very large, by the way, there's 2 twin-over full-size beds and a whole sitting area as well. 2 of the bedrooms are set up as masters where they have their own bathrooms inside. In between the circle drive and the main drive, it could fit enough vehicles for 12 people for sure.
Anything else from the board? Number 9. Okay. Rebecca, that'd be you, the only one who signed up.
Rebecca Farrow, 617 North Hollyway in Mustang, Oklahoma, and I have no opposition.
Anybody else want to address the board on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
I just want to clarify, you can fit 7 cars, or you can fit 8 cars before going into the street.
We would never promote more than that, but we could actually fit several more than that. Like the main drive, it's a 3-car garage, and it's very deep. It's almost an acre lot, so 9 could fit just in the driveway, not including the garage, and then probably another 7 in the circle drive technically. But we only talk about 7 or 8 vehicles.
So you'd be okay with the maximum of 8 with no on-street parking?
Yes, sir, absolutely. In the city mandates no street parking, by the way, on that street too.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion then.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15707 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception for a period of 3 years with a maximum of 7 cars with no on-street parking.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
There we go. Got that fixed. I pulled up the minutes.
You're approved.
Okay, do we want to go back to number 8? I have the minutes on the board order.
Okay.
Okay, so, excuse me. It was approved for a term of 1 year. The property will be advertised with the self-imposed rules submitted in the application. It has quiet hours between 10 and 8. Advertise a maximum of 8 guests. Advertise no on-street parking allowed. Advertise a maximum of 4 vehicles to park in the driveway. 4 vehicles total to include both access driveways.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Go into the minutes.
William, did you hear what she just read about the old order? Is there anything else you wanted to add? No,
Mr. Dinwiddie?
William. You're welcome to speak, Robert, but no. Oh, no, we got to get it on the record.
We went back to
This
the
is new.
we went back to the previous property, to the,
Oh, okay. Oh,
So we went back to item number 8, which is the renewal application located at 341712 Oaks Road. And our clerk just read into the record what last year's decision was. Would you like her to read that again?
I beg your pardon?
Our clerk went back to the last year's decision that the board made at this property and read what the minutes show. Would you like her to repeat that? Did you hear her say that just a minute ago?
I'm sorry, I did not, but,
Okay.
I mean, if it's in the record, that's, I'll accept that, but better, yes, please.
Okay, so they were to advertise quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., advertise their self-imposed rules that were submitted in the application, advertise a maximum of 8 guests, 4 vehicles maximum to park on both access drives, and no on-street parking, and granted for a 1-year term.
Okay. Well, there's on-street parking, there has been. So I want that on the record.
okay, can we get the applicant back up? So have you had any issues with on-street parking with?
There's, in the last year, I'm aware of one guest that did park on the street. It was actually not the guest who was staying, and it was only just for a little while. There were 6 women who were on a retreat that were staying at the home. They selected that home because the woman's daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter lived in the same neighborhood. Actually in the same Quail Creek neighborhood. She recommended it to them to rent so that they would be close. And during that stay, the daughter came over to drop off some stuff, and she did park in the street, for a little bit, and she lives in that neighborhood. One person did make reference to a golf cart being in the front, because her grandson used the golf cart to drive over there. He did not park in the street, though. He parked in the drive. And so I am aware of that situation. And they did actually apologize, for it, because she told all her guests there was no street parking, but she didn't necessarily tell her daughter, if you come by to drop something off, to not park in the street. So,
And they live in the neighborhood?
yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
okay. Yeah, my only thoughts on that, Not that it even applies to that situation, but I would be very careful just with, it sounds like you're making sure that the message gets across, but those are the types of things that I personally look for, and I know other board members look for in terms of considering renewals, instead of going ahead and granting the 3 years, doing another 1 year. But I don't believe, I don't necessarily know that that instance applies when they live in the neighborhood, because as a resident of that neighborhood, then they could park on the street throughout the neighborhood if they wanted to. So I do want to say that, Mr. Dunwoody, I completely understand your concerns. It sounds like that they were granted permission to use both accesses for parking. So I am going to restrict no on-street parking, which it sounds like they've been trying to comply with. But I will state to you something that we say quite often, which is if you do see something, you'll want to report it to the Action Center, because they'll keep a record of it. And then when this comes back for renewal, we'll be able to see that and can actually consider that when we make a determination.
Okay, now, we got to have you on the record, please.
Yeah, I could provide photographs to the board for the observations that we've made, so I want that on the record too.
Yes, and I would say that's perfect. You want to continue to document, because that's the only way that we know. If you see anything.
The only other comment is that whoever's managing this property, that they pay closer attention. I mean, if I've got to live with this, I'll accept that, but I won't accept the fact that we have to go and be faced with these kinds of things. And this gentleman has an answer for everything. I don't know when you saw these people park on the street, if it was yesterday or the day before. but that's when
We're not getting all that addressed
Sorry.
to the board.
Yeah,
Speaking, we got to get it on the
sorry.
record.
I just wanted to look them in the eye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Do you, excuse me, do you have the applicant's contact information?
Oh, we do, yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't like it, but we do.
Okay. All right, so anybody else who wants to address us on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Before I make a motion, I'll just advise to try to make sure to maintain communication with the neighbors, because they're going to be your biggest impediment when it comes to getting renewal. We're going to weigh their thoughts and their comments very heavily. So it's good to hear that he does have your contact information. I would just say, be proactive in making sure to reach out and check in and make sure that there's not any needs that they would like for you to address.
Sure, absolutely. And his daughter was the one who let us know about the trash too, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, they come in contact with him.
And are you okay with the maximum of 4 cars on this property?
4 cars in front and the back.
You've got 8. You've got a maximum of 8 guests. How many cars are you? I'm surely not everybody's driving a car themselves. What are you?
So I'm thinking about like that family that came over and they had their daughter and their family to come over to eat with them. And so like they drove in 4 cars, had them in the back, and then the 2 cars in the front to be able to share dinner with their family. And transparently, that's the type of thing that happens from time to time. It's not tons of people, it's not a big party or anything like that. But I mean, we can do 4, but that's how there's been more than that. And again, it doesn't spill over into the street. It's not.
Remind me, how many can fit in this back drive?
8 can fit in the back.
In just the back alone?
Yes, sir, not including the garage.
So, okay, if you're comfortable with it, we'll do a maximum of 8 cars. You can still use both drives. We'll just say a maximum of 8 cars with the 8 guests that you have in the application.
Yes, sir.
With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15706 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception for a period of 3 years with a maximum of 8 vehicles and no on-street parking.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Item number 9, case number 15707 is a renewal application of Jeff Cooper of Just Like Home Rentals to allow home sharing 3346 Northwest Grand Boulevard.
Did we do that one?
I think we did that.
3346.
Okay.
So the next one's the Wilton Lane.
Item number 10, case number 15708, a renewal application of Jeff Cooper of Just Like Home Rentals to allow home sharing at 2900 Wilton Lane.
Yes, my name is Jeff Cooper. I'm applying for a renewal application of special exception for 2900 Wilton Lane. All the things are listed the same as it was before.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, Rebecca, it looks like you're signed up on this one too.
Rebecca Farrow, 617 North Holly Way, Mustang, Oklahoma, no opposition.
Okay,
The only question I have is the driveway, and this may just be a misprint, but I've got the same photo on parking that we had for the 12 Oaks Road property.
Yes, that looks like that was a mistake on my part.
Okay.
In submitting a lot of PDFs. I submitted the wrong one. I can give you a website that will easily access the photos of the home if that helps. My apologies for submitting the wrong.
Well, how many vehicles can you fit in the driveway on the Wilton Lane property?
Yes, sir, without the garage, 4 easily in the regular part, and then 4 in the circle part. Maybe 3, depending on how big they are and how close they park.
And you are aware of the protest on this particular property?
Yes, sir. The ones that were submitted in the file, yes.
Let's hear from some of them. if you
Okay.
guys-
Robert, you want to come on up?
Good afternoon. I've been tasked to represent a number of the immediate members within 300-foot radius who were sent letters, and their names and addresses are listed onto the email sent to the board, and you have a copy of it. I would like to draw the board's attention that 2900 Wilton Lane has been operated and continues to be operated since 2023, when their exception was granted, without stating on any of their advertisements their license number, which is a statutory ordinance required item that they are required to have their license number put on their advertising information, and that would be under section, I believe, 13-510, 13-512, 13-515, which they have not complied with. They advertise 2900 Wilton for rent on the internet without advising the public that they're licensed to do so. Now then, section 13-515 says such an is a Class A offense under the ordinances. Now then, that's one thing. Their special exemption expired in May of 2024, and they've been operating without an exemption and also without a license this entire time. Now, they would like to cure this event by asking you to grant another exemption. I would like to point out that I was here for the meeting of 2023, in which the city received over 100 objections from the neighborhood, and we had 15 to 20 folks from the neighborhood who were here present, many of which stated their opposition to the short-term rental situation, and the city said, we're going to grant a 1-year exemption and see how this works out, and if Mr. Cooper can get along with his neighbors. Now then, he has a track record. There were several photos that were attached as exhibits to the objection. One photo which shows numerous cars parked in front of the premises at 2900, and also cars approaching the intersection with May and Wilton Avenue, all of which was discussed during that hearing. Now then, the neighbors whose addresses are attached or included within the objection have unanimously said that the problems continued with trailers being parked in front of the house, and trailers are exclusively not motor vehicles as allowed to park in front of the house. So, and these trailers or trailer were parked there for like a number of weeks until the action line had to be called and something had to be done. Now then, and the trailer was removed after the action line was consulted. Would like to remind the board that the City of Oklahoma City has entered a 6-month moratorium on the issuance of licenses for short-term rentals, and I'm sure that the board fully knows this, but I would like to discuss this and say that this is really not a renewal. Renewal is when you have a license, when you have an exception, and during that period, as you approach that time period, you advise a city that you would like to continue. That idea is a renewal. What we have here is the time period ends, and Mr. Cooper doesn't do anything about it on all of his properties. Months pass. We're now in August. That's 1/4 of the year has passed before he applies for a new exception, but he calls it a renewal, and a new permit or license, and you cannot get a license without having your exception granted. So during the period that he has applied for a new license, he's out of time. Now then, I would like to, there's one of the neighbors present here who signed up saying that she would like to talk, but she advised me she's extremely nervous and instead would like for me to read her written statement into the record. She's present here, Miss Sherry, would you please stand? And she's a neighbor who's within the 300-foot radius. Sherry Conorick, address 2924 Wilton Lane, wishes for me to read the statement that she's prepared. And she was trying to get prepared to address the board, but has asked me to read her written statement instead, if the board please.
Okay.
I live on Wilton Lane. I've seen the Airbnb in operation, multiple cars, mostly out-of-state tags, multiple people, mostly men of all ages, smoking, holding beverages, gathering in numbers in the front yard. We have 17 children on Wilton Lane. I think about safety on our street. There are unfamiliar people and drivers on Wilton. They won't conduct themselves as a person would that lives on Wilton Lane, knowing their neighbors. How do we know those at the Airbnb are upstanding individuals? Recently, there was a large trailer attached to a large pickup truck that sat in the driveway for numerous days. Is that approved by the code? Lakehurst is a residential neighborhood with single families living there, few cars, people taking pride in their homes and their neighborhoods. Instead, our street has become a commercial street. Most of the renters seem to be salesmen coming and going at all hours, not families on vacations or for coming to Oklahoma City for destinations. Instead, these unfamiliar people bring extra cars, multiple people, excessive trash. Cars are not supposed to park in the street due to a stop sign at the corner of the house. It causes difficulty for other drivers entering and exiting Wilton and May Avenue. And I will add that the cars on May Avenue, the speed limit there is 40 miles per hour, and cars typically drive 50. That's from my personal observation. I live at Drakestone and May, and tell you it is difficult to enter and exit May Avenue into the Lakehurst neighborhood. Thank you very much. We would request that our objection be sustained. At the very minimum, that the 6-month moratorium be observed while the city is processing the situation with short-term rentals, that that this permit not be allowed, or this license not be allowed for the reasons I've stated, and that Mr. Cooper has not shown himself to be a good neighbor, as he promised 1 year ago in May of 2023, and that his statements to the board of limitations on what his renters would do is unenforceable, as argued to the court, to the board. And yes, Mr. Cooper has good intentions, but I don't believe he has the ability to enforce those rules and regulations of his tenants. They will do what they want once they're there. Thank you.
Robert, before you go, let me address the temporary moratorium and the argument that this is a new application. My perception is that temporary moratorium is only on new applications, and I treat this one as a renewal because he did have one, even though he was out of time. So I don't think the moratorium applies to this application. That's my opinion and my vote.
In response, I would state that prior to coming to this meeting, I checked the licenses at 2900 Wilton Lane, and the only licenses that the city showed that were granted were licenses for, in 2019, for garage sales, and a plumber's license for a plumbing job that was done by a licensed contractor. However, there was no license, and I don't know if the city knows whether or not a license was ever granted for Mr. Cooper to operate this Airbnb, and so that would be I have not seen his application, but I did go online and I saw that there's different forms. One form for a new application and one form for a renewal, and the difference appears to be the similar information is requested, but there's a number, a blank number for a license number. So it seems like the board is saying that if sometime in the past that Airbnb had a license, whether or not that license was expired or not, would still be honored as a renewal. And if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. Thank you very much. Any questions of myself?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper?
Appreciate sharing, and just for the record, everyone in the neighborhood, or I don't know everyone in the neighborhood, but the board and HOA, they have my contact information. Just to address, there was a number of things that were mentioned. I'll try my best to succinctly address the ones that I remember. The gentleman referenced last time there being 100 objections. I should state that when I first purchased, this is just for context and background, when I first purchased the home, before even, because I had to fix it up a little bit, before anything ever happened, they had a couple of HOA meetings determined to not allow, the home to be there. And so they had already determined before, anything took place that they were going to object to it. And so those 100 objections, we actually operated. We had multiple long-term guests. The 100 objections was the same one objection, written out 100 times, and it was that you could see some trash with one of our guests over a course of a 2-year period, and all 100 objections stated we could see the trash. It wasn't blowing or disturbing anything, as their quote from last time, but we could see it when we drove by. Surrounding our license not being posted, I guess, on the Airbnb and VRBO websites, I didn't realize that that was a requirement, so I own up to that. I didn't. There's nothing on an Airbnb or VRBO field that asks for that information, but if that's something that we're supposed to insert in there, that's certainly something that we could do and would not have a problem doing. I will say that I believe the letter that was read was the same one from last year. It's the same statement from last year, and certainly did not apply, to anything that has taken place since our last one has been granted. My understanding, for whatever it's worth, you guys understand it better than me, but the moratorium that he was referencing, it talks about, like, if you purchase a home, you cannot apply for a special exception for 180 days or 6 months. And so that's if it's a newly purchased home, that's the rule. Of course, this is not a newly purchased home. And then provided that the neighborhood does not have more than 10% short-term licenses in the neighborhood, then you're able to apply, because the other portion of the moratorium is it can't be more than 10% short-term rentals in a particular area. So as my understanding, none of those things also would apply to this particular situation. The photos that were submitted, there was a photo that was submitted about a latch on our gate, that the back gate didn't have an appropriate latch, and we submitted photos showing that it absolutely does. Some of the photos were, someone evidently walked onto our property and got up close pictures of grass blades and shrubs to make it look like it was unruly, but it's not. And you can see from all the photos, and then we submitted additional ones, that the yard is upkept. We have maintenance every week for 6 weeks during the rainy season and the peak of the summer, and then every 2 weeks, like many of us do when it's really dry and the grass and shrubs aren't growing that fast. So we have all those things in place, and that's why you don't see pictures and photos documenting all those things, because it's actually not a challenge or a problem. In the photo, it showed 2 vehicles that were parked on the street. We submitted, so I do know exactly what that was from as well, too, for whatever it's worth. That was in May of 2023, which is what that photo is from. And there was a 2-week stay. Missionaries, out-of-the-country missionaries, they live in Oklahoma, and so they came back to the States for 2 weeks. One night they had their family to come over and some of their sponsors to kind of just share what they've been doing for the previous 2 years where they were out of the country. And they did have 2 people that parked not in front of anybody else's area, not impeding anything on the street or anything of that nature. They did have 2 people that parked on the street. And we did get call from the neighbor and from the guest as well, because one of the neighbors went onto the property and made sure that they told the guest that they're not allowed to park on the street. And so they moved and parked in the driveway. I'm pretty sure they saw all kinds of cars up and down the street, and they didn't want to block someone in. So I'm sure on their own they decided, I'll go ahead and park in the street. The people who rented the home apologized profusely. They said those 2 people arrived late. They weren't able to tell them. And so that's, how I can address that. And then I do think we submitted photos the other thing that was mentioned is an unapproved trailer. It's not an unapproved trailer. We had a guest that stayed there 2 weeks, and they had, like many people do, they had a truck and then a trailer that's hitched on the back, and that had all their tools that they were using while they were working in our city for 2 weeks. And they parked there. There was no additional cars, nobody parked on the street or anything along those lines. And we did submit photos that show much larger trailers, multiple ones, all throughout the neighborhood. And hopefully you guys receive those photos so that's not an issue or a challenge in the neighborhood. And it was at our house for 2 weeks, and it's been in the neighborhood at multiple homes for months on end at this point, including porta potties and all kinds of stuff. And so we're not a nuisance or degrading the neighborhood or anything like that.
Anything else from the board? And Sarah, can you help me on the moratorium? I don't read it as absolute, no. There's spacing.
Sure, Sarah Welch, Subdivision and Zoning Manager, and just to kind of address the moratorium. So on July 16th, the City Council passed a moratorium on all new special exception applications. So a special exception is required for home sharing if you are wanting to advertise that home on Airbnb or Vrbo or something similar, and that's not your primary residence, or if you live in an HP Historic Preservation neighborhood. Staff is no longer able to accept an application for a new home share. We are able to accept an application for renewal applications. We can only accept a new application if the new special exception would not create more special exceptions on the platted block than 10% of the dwelling units. I have the moratorium language here. It might be better if I just read that. So during the moratorium, no new applications for home sharing, no new applications for home sharing that, if such application were to be approved, would cause the total number of home sharing special exceptions to exceed 10% of the total number of dwelling units in a platted block, or if the block is unplatted, the total number of dwelling units in the way that our code defines a block. So we don't expect this board to see any applications that are affected by the moratorium until about around September. But as of right now, as they are coming into staff, we are assessing whether or not it's a new application and whether the total number would exceed 10% of what's already there.
And Sarah, how are you guys defining the application? Because I defer to you all if you guys listed as a renewal versus a new application.
Well, I think part of the confusion is that everyone that does home sharing needs a license. Everyone needs a license. Not everyone needs a special exception. Everyone applies for a special exception, and we determine whether it's a renewal based on if there's been one issued in the past. So if it's a timely renewal, we will accept the renewal application. But everyone still pays the same fee. They still go through the same process to come before you, whether it's their first time or if it's a renewal. It's the same fee, it's the same application.
You guys don't establish a threshold of so much time elapsing before you will not allow them to submit it as a renewal?
Well, we haven't had to in the past. It's the same fee, it's the same process, and they come before you and we give you the information if it's been expired for how long. We give that information to you to help you make your decision. Now with the moratorium, that is still information that's not explicitly covered in the moratorium in the ordinance. And so as of right now, we are just determining whether it was a timely renewal. Our process takes, you have to apply a couple of months in advance to be heard before you. So we know that we know there are people whose license and their special exceptions are not on the same path. And we know that once someone applies, they don't get heard before this board for about 2 months. So we're trying to find that sweet spot to allow those people that have continuously renewed their licenses and applications to come before you, as long as it doesn't violate the moratorium.
Is this application from May 4th renewal subject to that, or?
None of the applications before you today are subject to the moratorium because they were all received prior to July 16th.
Sorry, I worded that incorrectly. Would this be a product of that time lapse between the discrepancy between the license and the special exception? Would this applicant have been able to get a renewal prior to the expiration of the previous?
Well, our filing deadline for this particular docket was June the 20th for August 1st. So it's a bit of a lapse, so he would have had to apply.
So this would not be considered timely?
Well, it's considered a renewal in the system, but our timely, we don't have we have never designated 30 days or 60 days because of our filing deadlines are so large in between the meeting date and the filing deadlines.
Is there anything that would have precluded the applicant from submitting a renewal application prior to this one expiring, outside of his control?
No, he could have done that.
Okay.
And if I may, and so the gentleman had mentioned that it's my mistake, by the way. He mentioned we were good through May, and we thought that we were good through the end of May. And we actually had an email from one person from the city that said by May 15th, we had to begin the process. And so around May 5th, we began the process, and that was when we learned that the email that said May 15th was wrong. They were like, it's already past May 4th, so it's expired. But of course, we started with the process, and this is how long it's taken. So we started on May 5th. I believe June, by the time we got stuff ready, is booked. I don't know if there was any meetings in July, and so August 1st was when we were scheduled. Well, we began the process May 5th. We thought we had through the end of May, at the very least, to start on May 15th per the email. And so here we are going through the process.
So you
now.
submitted this application on May 5th?
That's when we started the process. So we called in, to get the paperwork, connect with the folks that we had emails on, just to see what the timing of everything would be, trying to be well ahead of the May 30th and even the May 15th that was communicated to us. And so we've been following the process since then, which of course requires a number of different steps and waiting to get on the docket, et cetera.
I want some clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the notes here say this is a renewal application for home share issued May 4, 2023 for a one-year term.
Yes, ma'am.
So is there documentation which shows that and it shows a clear expiration date?
Yes, ma'am. And like I said, that was my fault. Like it was May, so we were thinking the end of May, and we had the email that said May 15th. But clearly, I was wrong. I could have referred back to the previous thing, and then I would have seen the May 4th date versus the May 15th date. And so, my apologies. My apologies certainly for that.
Incidentally, that also applies to some of the previous ones. And so I think we need to be consistent in how we apply ourselves and treat this.
Agreed.
Okay, anything else from the board? Robert, you got anything else you want to add?
I was just advised.
Oh, no, come on, please.
I was just advised by Ms. That the photograph submitted showing the cars being parked on the roadway were in 2024, were not in 2023. And that that's for clarification, but I could not determine the exact date.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Rebecca, I don't remember, did I call on you? You signed up for this one.
Pardon me?
Oh, go ahead, Robert.
Or are you asking me to, I didn't quite catch that.
No, I was recognizing Rebecca. She signed up, and I don't remember recognizing you on this case.
Rebecca Farrow, 617 North Hollyway, Mustang, Oklahoma. No opposition to this.
Okay. All right. Now, that's everybody that signed up to speak. Is there anybody else who wants to address the board on this application? Is there anything else from the board? Questions or comments?
I would just make a statement that I would probably like to see us continue this when we have more attendance from the board. I will say, previously, we touched on this topic of expirations, and the approach that we took then is, it was a very subjective one in terms of how long we allowed. If we felt like it was egregious, then we reverted it back to 1 year. I will say, if I remember correctly, we did treat them all as renewals, but there were several where if the time period in our individual opinions were long enough, we didn't give them the benefit of a 3-year renewal as opposed to a 1-year renewal. That being said, there's a couple other moving parts here, particularly, the allegations that, there's been on-street parking, some as early as within the first week of the application, the special exception being granted. We've got the claim that this has continued to operate in this lapse, which kind of goes back to how much we determine that this is a lapse. And the comments made by the opposing counsel is accurate. That's a statement that we say frequently is, we'll issue a 1-year exception even in the midst of quite a bit of opposition to see how it does and then, evaluate it. And it's really because of that I would like to see us continue it and allow some of the other board members to weigh in on this particular application.
Is that a motion?
So you've moved for continuance. I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, so I will make a motion to continue case number 15708 to the August 15th meeting.
Everybody got a motion? You second?
I'll second
Okay, now this is a motion to continue.
the motion to
Motion
continue.
is second. Cast your votes. I vote yes
Yeah,
on the
I voted
continuance. I
yes.
didn't get a panel.
Oh, I voted yes.
Would I be out of, wait a minute. Did I hit that? I hit that. There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
And that.
He has one more. Item number 11, case number 15709 is a renewal application of Jeff Cooper of Just Like Home Rentals for home sharing at 810 Northeast 50th Street.
Yes, my name is Jeff Cooper, and looking to renew their application for special exemption for 810 Northeast 50th Street. All the rules and everything is indicated as the same, and there are no actual challenges disrupting the neighborhood or anything along those lines as in the previous cases.
Questions or comments from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment. Mr. Cooper has had several cases, several of which we have considered. Each of them shows an expired license, and I think as a board, we ought to be consistent in how we apply our actions to cases that are similarly situated. Each of them has an expired license effective May 4th. And so since we've continued the case on Wilton Lane, I know that we, voted to approve a couple of other things, but they're the same. I think we ought to continue all of those cases to the August 15th docket so that we could get the weigh-in on other board members and really take a look at that. If I'm out of order on that, so be it.
All right. Go ahead, Jeff. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, if I may add, in the time while we were going through the paperwork and as she said that it takes a while to get on the dockets and all that kind of stuff, and again, our apologies, but in that time, we were only accepting 30-day rentals. During that time frame, any new rentals would be 30 days, which again is allowed and doesn't fit within the special exemption, homestead, as we were working through the process to get our extensions. And again, my apologies for missing that date, but.
And Rebecca, that looks like an 11. I think you signed up on this one too.
Rebecca Farrow, 617 North Holly Way, Mustang, Oklahoma, no opposition.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else from the board before we take a motion?
Well, to Board Member Emily Kay's statement, I agree, we need to be consistent. I have a question. So on this one, on this application, it shows that there's a code violation for an expired special exception. So is that just across the board, you're operating and don't have a renewal? Because the applicant is stating that the occupants that have been staying there are doing 30-day stays and therefore not subject to the short-term requirements. So how does one get issued a violation? Does somebody call that in and they verify that they should be subject to short-term rental?
It's the license process.
Is there a resolution of that one yet, of that code violation? Or is it still pending?
We don't follow those, but last week when we made the staff report, there was one that was issued.
And often if the license is expired, that goes through code enforcement, so we should find out what the status of the license is, for the application for the renewal for this property. Have you applied for the renewal for the license on this property?
I don't know. This is all we were aware that we were supposed to do. So based on anything that was communicated to us, like this is all new. This is the first time we had to do this. This is a year later.
Yeah. So as I previously mentioned, so if everyone needs a home share license, and then you need the special exception if it's not your primary residence. So I think to our board member's point, if the item were continued for 2 weeks, that would give you an opportunity to check the status of the renewals of any licenses.
So does a home share, so a special exemption lasted for 1 year, a home share license also only lasts for 1 year?
The license only lasts for it's a 12-month license that has to be renewed every year, and everyone who does home sharing has to have one, whether or not you live there. But if you don't live there, then this is the process to come through to get a special exception granted by the board, and it's under the board's authority to determine how long that is good for.
And I think part of the problem is the license and exception are not concurrent. So you end up with different expiration dates.
And we do all of that through this office, or no?
I will reach out and help you with that and
thank you.
advise you how to get that process going.
Thank you.
So I'm on board with continuing this. I would ask council, what liberties do we have in regards to decisions made on previous cases in this meeting?
In this instance, the applicants have gone. You've already made a decision on it, and so those are finished. You've already ruled.
I just wanted to verify.
It's the same applicant.
Oh,
Okay.
but the applicant is still here on this one? Or is it just the previous applicants?
The previous applicants, and actually the action that you've
The action we've taken,
The
okay.
action that you've already,
Okay, so that's in the book. So if we wanted, what would the process be? Could we move to reconsider it at a later date? Or
on
is
the
it
ones that on the ones you've already approved?
with respect to this particular applicant?
On those of his applications that
Mhm.
you've already approved,
Okay.
without additional information,
Mm-hmm.
other than what you've already considered, then those two that have already been approved should remain approved.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion on this one? Is there anybody else wants to address the board on this application? Okay,
I actually did a lot of the filing for these exceptions, and so I know that there's a first paperwork page that you fill out, and I believe that is for the licensing, and before they even let you apply for the exception. Is that correct? Okay, so I've done all that with these, and I paid, I think it's like a $24 fee for the actual licensing. So we do have those. We paid for those. And they granted those to us. I just wanted to add that.
We do have the license.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue case number 15709 to the August 15th meeting.
And I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to continue this item. Cast your votes. Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks on this one.
And for my, so what do we do? Is there anything that I need to do in preparation for, so we have the licenses, and so is this internal to see how long of a period, like I'm trying to figure out what I do and what I say on between now and August 15th, and then what I would be, like what are you looking for from me between now and August 15th, I guess?
So I know, at least on this case that we just heard, you'll need to get with staff to verify the license status of that one, simply because there is a violation for an expired license. And then the previous one, we would just like the other board members here to weigh in, so you can come back and just represent that same information.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, item number 12, case number 15714, is a renewal application of Letitia Major on behalf of Brett Roberts of Homewell LLC to allow home sharing at 11500 North May Avenue, apartment 302.
I'm Letitia Major, renewal application, everything is still the same as last year.
Give us your address, I didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. Letitia Major, renewal application request, and everything is still the same as last year.
Any questions or comments from the board on this one?
Well, just in the spirit of being consistent, do we have a date for this renewal?
Are you asking me? The date I turned it in was June 28th, I believe. That was the date of my receipt.
Well, when this initial exception was set to expire?
Oh, that I don't know. I could maybe look.
Well, there were no code violations in the permit portal, so it was.
I don't know that I can find any paperwork, but.
So, I need clarification again, because on the previous applicant, there were several, I believe there was only one of those applications that showed that there was a code violation on. However, they all expired on the same date, so they were all out of time. So there's something else that triggers whether or not it shows up as a code violation.
Well, that comes from the licensing department, and something may not have triggered on those other ones, but this one, there wasn't anything in there. She's just renewing it from last year.
It's typically a complaint that somebody submits, and then it gets in the portal, but if there's not a complaint, then
Okay.
it just continues.
Anything else from the board? I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion then.
Do you need more than one car, or are you able to? Do you need more than one vehicle?
We have parking, it's a condo, so it's all inside the gate. It's a studio condo. We put 2 cars on the listing but it's all open parking with plenty of spaces.
Okay, I'd just like to establish just the number for other residents there. So if you're okay with 2 cars, we'll do a maximum of 2 cars.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to approve case number 15714 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception for a period of 3 years with a maximum of 2 vehicles.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 13, case number 15711 is an application of Taylor Volk to allow home sharing located in Gatewood Urban Conservation District, located at 1843 Northwest 16th Street.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Taylor Volk. I'm here for the home share exemption.
And what's your address?
Say again, sir.
Pardon?
What was your, what
Your
did you say?
address?
I'm sorry, your
My address
address.
is
We need
82
that in the record. That's all.
827 Northwest 17th Street, Oklahoma City.
Okay, thank you.
For this particular property, we bought and purchased the license for the property, and now we are asking for the exemption.
Okay, you've got, you're seeking 12 guests here. Now tell me how many bedrooms are on this property?
There are 5 bedrooms.
No, pull the microphone up just a little. I couldn't hear you.
5 bedrooms for this property.
Okay.
5 bedrooms. And a bed in each property. One bedroom is very large. We put 2 beds. So 6 beds in total. 1 king, 5 queen.
Okay, now are one of these a loft or a den? The application says 4 rooms offered. It doesn't define if they're bedrooms, but
That's correct. I apologize. It is 4. On the application is correct.
4 bedrooms?
Yes, my counting's off. Counting beds, it's 5 beds, so apologize for that. Thanks for the question.
How many vehicles can you fit in a driveway?
For this property, we could fit three vehicles, and there's ample street parking for additional if it was needed. But for off-street parking on concrete driveway, it'd be 3.
4 bedrooms, this being a new application, I would probably not want to consider anything above 8 guests. Are you guys comfortable with that?
If that were to be required to get the home share exemption, we were providing for the option for the 5 beds to be used if family gatherings such as Thanksgiving and Christmas were to take place. We would like that option, but it doesn't mean that it would be that volume. More often than not, it's less than that. But I would like to offer it as an option if you do seem inappropriate for the size of the property. It's a very, very large property.
Do you have anybody speak on this?
No. Is there anybody who wants to address the board on this application? Anything else from the board? Okay, if there's nothing else, I think we're ready for a motion then.
I've got some photos, but I don't have any context, so I'm not sure if I'm missing a page. I've got some photos of, and a statement about some overgrown, yes.
This doesn't quite read like a protest.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something.
No, that's what we received for the record. We just put the email in with the pictures.
Okay. Well, so what I will do is I will advise you to reach out to your neighbors, as you've no doubt seen. We definitely take the neighbors' opinions and their thoughts and concerns very seriously. So evidently someone has submitted some photos that they believe document the property being unkept. So I would just say, make sure to reach out, particularly those in close proximity, make sure they have your contact information, somebody reach out to you all if they have a problem or issue at the property, just to make sure that you don't have issues when it comes time for renewal, because that'll definitely be something that we will consider. I'll also state that typically for a new application, we start off with a 1-year special exception just to see how things go before looking to grant any additional time.
Yes, absolutely. And noted for the pictures, we do want to take great pride in having a great landscape. It does look like we had to take care of a lot of weeds when we first got the property. So we have a really great landscaper that does a great job. We've had to take a lot of time to find a great landscaper to get to that point. So we will have a very professional yard, and I think that our neighbors will be very pleased. I do know on this property some neighbors are enthusiastic about being able to be a home share, and the prior homeowner in particular was excited that his property that his family's known for a long time was going to be used for that purpose. So I wanted to say that I'm excited for this property to be.
Nobody signed up, but unless there's questions, comments from the board, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15711 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, subject to the self-imposed rules, with a maximum of 3 vehicles for a period of 1 year and a maximum of 8 guests.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Okay, you're approved.
Item number 14, case number 15712, is an application of Taylor Volk to allow home sharing located at 1409 Northwest 16th Street.
Taylor Volk, 827 Northwest 17th Street. For this property, we have purchased the license.
You've got 7 rooms being offered. This is a 7-bedroom home. Is that accurate?
That is correct. My name is Kayla Volk. I reside at 827 Northwest 17th Street.
You're aware of the protest on the property?
We are, yes. I do just want to mention, unfortunately, my time here has exceeded, and I'm in patient care, so I do have to head out. I could speak to a lot of things, but specific to any neighbors who are objecting, I really just want them to have my contact information, because anything that they have concerns about, I think can be pretty easily remedied with conversation. And
Well, one of the things that a neighbor points out is the 7 bedrooms. They're challenging the fact that the home is actually 7 bedrooms. There's a claim that the house was initially 5 bedrooms. Were there modifications done on the property to add additional bedrooms?
No modifications were done, no. No, but I do know that when the property was purchased, one of the rooms was used as a pantry. So when the realtor highlighted the use of the property, they add the bedroom count. I'm unsure why the Realtor put in a bedroom count that was less than accurate, but it has the room that you were using as a pantry has a closet. It's a full bed with legal windows, so my count is accurate. And we did put a bed in each bedroom to go along. We have one king, the rest were queens. We included 2 pull-out couches for guests to be comfortable, and that's just the accommodations we provided for this property. For this property, we want to have a large family gathering, so our goal was to try to provide very, very comfortable amenities. Family gatherings for holidays is what we're really trying to provide. Graduation, celebrations. It's a particularly large property.
Is there anything else from the board? Because I got a couple of folks signed up to speak on this one. Yeah. Okay, John Williamson, come on up.
Hello, my name is John Williamson. I live at 1405 Northwest 16th Street, the house directly to the east of this one. Yep, right there. And I would like to submit an objection for this exemption. When we moved in February of 21, we knew that our neighbors had 5 children, and they were between the ages of 2 and 12. We had never heard a ruckus compared to what we have since the house had been sold with those kids there, and they play outside a lot. Like Mr. Volk did, we dipped our foot in the Airbnb pool and started making some money. We hosted those graduation parties, a cellist from OCU. We had bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. Actually, the bachelorette party was the worst. Once it started disturbing our neighbors and we had to have the Lux, who currently or formerly own this home, come over and let our guests in because they had lost the key, woke them up a couple times, we decided it's not worth it. We're not going to apply for this license. We're not going to do it. After a period of time, it was just causing a problem in the neighborhood. Like she said, I don't even know the lady's name that's just here that left. Yeah, I'd love to have a contact number. I have almost every other neighbor on the street's phone number, but I've never met them. And when I come home from a 24-hour shift at the hospital and I get my kids to school and I want to take a nap at 10 a.m. because I've been awake for 20 of the last 24 hours, there's a group there doing a chant in the backyard or something else. And I know that is within the time to be loud. But if it was a neighbor I knew, I'd say, hey, could you guys maybe do that inside? Could you do it out in the alley? Because my bedroom window is right by their backyard. That's something that gets taken away from these type of properties. If you don't live in it and it's not yours, you don't know the neighbors as well. It's not someone we can call. If when we had it as an Airbnb in our house, we were constantly on our phones. We knew everybody. We had spare keys. We had the other neighbors to help us. And that's just not really the thing that's going on. Parking-wise, there is no street access, or from 16th Street access to the house. They have to park in this back alley. The Lux knew, the former owners, that the property line was where you can see that fence indention is. The people that have been staying there don't. I don't like it that my alley behind my house gets blocked, and we don't park in the alley. We have access, but we don't utilize it. We have a driveway on the 16th Street, but my kids play in that. I don't know whose cars are there. Is it a guest that someone's staying? Why are there 3 or 4 cars there? It's just something we're unfamiliar with. People being loud, people blocking the alley, okay, that's one thing. But when you don't live there and people come to stay at your home, the most recent complaint we have is a man was standing in the backyard when our kids were out playing, and we have a fence that you can see through partially, as you can see in this picture, and the guy was staring at my daughter, and she just felt weird. And I don't like that. If that were my neighbor, I could talk to him, go over, but it's not. It was some guest who's now gone. And what we've seen so far before today does not make me excited to keep living on 16th Street. And we paid a lot for that house. We love the area. We've loved the neighbors. It has been wonderful. But now that the property's changed hands, it not what it was. It's not the neighborhood that we bought into. We didn't want to live next to a quick turnover mini hotel. That's all.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Sam, is it Grimmett? Yeah.
Hello, Board. I'm Sam Grimmett to 1413 Northwest 16th Street. I'm also the arborist for Scissortail Park. I like to think of myself as a friendly guy. When Taylor first bought the house, I introduced myself and I found him to be quite a nice man. I'm sure under other circumstances we could be friends. I've been paying attention to the people that are speaking here today, and I really want for you guys to understand whether or not you have Airbnbs close to your house or not. I think that often it's not the grass on the curb or the trash in the street or a car parked in an unusual location. It's the fact that really an owner off-site Airbnb, which is laughingly called home sharing, is really just unregulated event space. Like the whole idea of having 7 bedrooms and 16 people and having bridal showers and concerts and having people come, and there was an advertisement that was filmed in the house a while ago, right outside of my house. I have no idea if it was an advertisement or if it was a porn script or what was going on. The weird thing about it is that every day when I walk out my front door, I have no idea who's coming out my neighbor's front door. I also have daughters, have dogs, I have people antagonizing them through the gate. I realize that they're yappy little monsters, but my wife likes them. I would really like to not have an Airbnb close to my house. I would like to have a neighbor who's part of my community I can make friends with and know over a long-term period. Even if that is just a rental situation, if you guys just want to rent it to a long-term tenant. Kind of lost my train of thought there. If this Airbnb is going to go ahead, I would really like for the total number of guests to be curtailed significantly. Thank you very much for your time.
Sir, excuse me, sir. I think it was.
Do you know it's hard to hear you from back there? I know it's weird, it just like echoey or something. Carry on.
I think your letter was the one that addressed the bedrooms. Was it clear that it was this
Yes,
property that
possibly
was
so.
5 bedrooms?
Was at least our understanding of the property. I have been in there, and they're absolutely right. It's a very large house. I'm not super concerned by how many bedrooms are inside. I just know that when everybody comes rolling out the front door and they're drunk and they're having domestics with their girlfriends and stuff like that, there's a lot of people that turn up and come and go from that house. It has been rented for approximately 16 people for around about $145 a night, which to me, in any kind of math, is less than $10 a person. You can imagine that's really bringing in the sort of folks that you don't want to have hanging out next to your house. It's a nice property, and if they would like to rent it out to Airbnb and everything kind of stayed under control, that'd be cool. Think about it from the point of view that if it's being rented for 16 people and they're having an event or a graduation or a bridal shower there, imagine the total number of people that have arrived and left that property during a 24-hour period, being that 16 people are in residence there. If they even each invite a +1, that's 32 people that are in and out of the back door for 2 parking spots. Now, we do have street parking on side streets and things like that, but it's causing quite an inconvenience as it relates to the alley. I've even been in situations where I've had to find somebody to translate for me, for somebody who didn't speak English, the fact that I needed for them to move their car from behind my roller gate that said no parking on it. It's taken up a lot of my time and energy. All of the people that have come through here today, really what they're looking for is to have an actual neighbor, not to have an unregulated event space next to their home. Questions? Thank you.
go ahead if you want to respond.
I wanted to thank the neighbors for the time they took to describe some of the issues that they've had at this property. I did have the honor of meeting Sam, who just spoke. I did not have the honor of meeting the gentleman prior. I did meet the missus of that household. I had a great conversation with her. We did not exchange contact information at that time. However, I would really like to approach every neighbor and offer my contact information to each and every one of them. If they have any concerns or issues whatsoever, I would love to hear from them. Throughout the process, I have several other Airbnbs that we rent, and I haven't had any complaints from neighbors or any city questions of that nature for the properties prior, the ones we managed last year. Those have been great properties, and we've been managing them very professionally. We do take it very seriously, the neighbors. Anything that the neighbors have to say is positive or negative, I've heard mostly positive from other houses that we've rented. However, Sam and I exchanged contact, I believe, back in October when the house was purchased, and we've been in contact. From a neighborly standpoint, we were renovating the property, and pleasantries and talking to each other from time to time was great. And like Sam said, becoming friends and such sounds like something that I was also seeking and would be great. In essence, being just neighborly and spirit of community. I let him know that his dogs were outside of his yard on multiple occasions, and I helped to try to secure them and let him know. And I believe it was his daughter or someone in one of the neighbors nearby dropped a ball in the backyard and helping the neighbors retrieve their lost ball. And I do truly care about their quality of life. As far as setting rules and regulations, as far as the number of people that can be in the household at one time, yet alone also saying how many can actually spend the night, is absolutely something I'd love to have a conversation about. Parking and being able to provide the parking spots necessary. We believe 3 is a good parking space and still plenty left over. It's a 66-foot by 15-foot parking. We do recognize that the alley is important for people to come and go from their properties. This property does not have a concrete driveway that extends from 16th Street to the alleyway like many other houses do. Like Sam's has one that goes all the way through, which is great, and he has a gate. Our parking would just be in the back through the alley. But one thing that I'd like to also note, from the spirit of community and making our house a better place, this property, we want to maintain the outside and get a great curb appeal for all of our neighbors. And we take great pride in that. One thing that we did, and I don't know if the neighbors know this, but we called the city because it was a mud pit back there. It was nothing but mud. Every time we park, it would just be muddy. And I got a hold of I believe the engineering department of the city to offer gravel throughout the entire back alley, which was very much needed. Talked to Sam about it. He said he didn't know what city government would talk to get that, because it's something that we were all bothered by. And I want to say that we want to make it as nice as possible for them as well. We were able to get that approved, and they offered to lay the gravel, and it's been a great experience as far as it's not concrete back there, it's all gravel, so it provided a much greater parking for many and be able to go to and from their properties. So I'll have my mom speak.
Okay.
She has a couple words to say.
Hi, my name is Pamela Volk, and I live at 1628 Northwest 18th Street, still in the same neighborhood, just right down the street. I think that the property is a little bit unusual from some of the other Airbnbs that people see because it is a large home. And that has always been our vision. Taylor has mentioned that we want families to be able to gather for holidays. We are a family that didn't have a home where we could invite everybody. But then as my children got older and had children, he had a house where he could do that. And it's just fabulous for people to be able to have that. They normally wouldn't. We very much care about the neighbors, just like Taylor said. I also am willing to provide my name. When we talk about the alley and any issues with parking, I do want to mention that other people park in the alley. We have seen multiple times the same person parked in the alley not far from us. It's a little bit hard to tell because they all stagger. Like ours goes in quite a bit to allow for parking, and some of them come out really far where even the telephone pole is in their driveway where they've got concrete around the pole. So it's kind of a weird situation. But we have, if we ever saw anything that happened, we come to the property. We often come and make sure everything's okay. We have cleaners, we have maintenance people. There's a lot of times that we're there, but also we want to make ourselves available through phone calls. If there's ever been an issue with anybody who comes on our property, we want to know about it. We have never had the police involved in any way. We've never heard about any instance of anybody making somebody uncomfortable or being inappropriate. So I just wanted to mention that, from our standpoint too. Thank you.
Questions or comments from the board?
If I may say one last thing, as far as rules, if it were to be, most adequate to suggest the rules that I provided when I did the application were to suggest city ordinances. I know that our neighbor has requested that we change it from 10 p.m. to instead be 9 p.m. for his family. We would be most accommodating for that as well. So if we could change that to 9 p.m. quiet hours, I'd definitely agree to that. And if any member of the board has anything as far as rules.
Anything else from the board?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. It didn't sound like you guys read the protest from the neighbors, their letters.
We read the letter. We were not aware of a protest prior to reading the letter that was provided via email. And I did reach out to one neighbor, Sam, prior to the meeting to have a conversation. He was not available yesterday to talk, but that is important for me to talk to any neighbors that do have anything that does come on. So I want to provide that contact information to my whole block.
And I do think that would be helpful, but the reason that I ask is because unless I've missed it, I haven't heard you guys address or disagree with any of the allegations that are made in their protests in terms of the experience that they're having living there. Is that what you guys understand, the comments that they've left to be accurate?
It's a good question, sir. I was not made aware of it. As far as the comments that were made, and specifically the chanting or the loud noises or staring at the daughter or anything in particular, I've not been made aware of. And we did have a long period of time it was just being renovated. The house was in pretty poor shape on the inside. New paint, new carpet, new flooring, just make it look as nice as we can. So we did have a lot of contractors at the property for a time, and it may have caused some disturbance too. I do know that some of the reports in the letter state a date that would have been about the time we were renovating. So it's referring to some contractors that will no longer be currently working at the property. So those kind of issues would be abated naturally. Going forward, a couple things that the technology, being loud and unruly. There's equipment that has it'll tell you how loud people are being in the property, and it also can with the same machine can also detect smoke and damages. So we have that at the property, and we are absolutely without a question going to be very, very proactive in managing the volume and listening to neighbors. If they have anything to say, we're going to be handling that as soon as possible. And to go along with that, I stay very busy. However, I've got several people that are helping being able to manage this effectively and professionally. One would be my mother, my wife. I've got several contractors and a whole cleaning team. I've got a network of people that are helping with this, so we can be able to stay on top of things like that. And we want to be able to come back for a renewal in, say, a year's time and be able to come back with a 3-year opportunity. And the neighbors would be okay with that. There's a lot of fear in Airbnbs in general. The 2 neighbors we just spoke to are on both sides of the house, and there's a lot of fear. They have kids, and I want to help alleviate that stress and that fear. We want to provide a great home for families to gather, and we hope that meeting today and having this conversation, they do feel more comfortable.
How long have you guys been renting this, providing this for short-term rental?
How long have we been providing a short-term rental?
This house, yes.
This house. So we had, after renovating, we had provided a company that was doing a film production. They did a long-term lease with us. We had a lease signed, and then that was up until I believe middle of May, and then we opened it up to Airbnb. We did the application for the home share April 24th, and we had to make adjustments. The planning department stated that since the property is in my personal name, I can't use my LLC for the application unless I show more supporting documents. So I had to come back and put the application back in to go along with this. So as far as timeliness, I did learn a lot through this process, putting in these applications. Managing Airbnbs last year, I had a professional property manager handle all the applications and the paperwork. It is a bit daunting that we do have to wait a long period of time to have these meetings, and so I hope that it's understood that we are absolutely doing our best to be following the rules, following city ordinances, complying with the rules we're going to set forth here, and also paying the taxes on these Airbnbs and doing everything we can to be a good neighbor.
Well, I'll be candid. There's not a lot. We heard some comments from some of the neighbors in regards to, the desire to want to know who your neighbors are and have that community feel, and I completely get that. Unfortunately, that's not one of the things that we can base our decisions off of. What we can base it off of is management, and I feel like in the short time that you have been operating it as a short-term rental, that the experiences haven't been good. The noise, the folks hanging out, the large number of guests, but particularly, I think I read in one of the comments that some of your guests filled up their trash cans, and they had to wait several times to have somebody move a vehicle so that they could park. That is exactly the type of operation that I would deny an application on. Your neighbors have been gracious enough to outline in some of their letters what they would like to see in terms of some restrictions if this were approved. And I'll tell you, you've got really great neighbors, because most of the time we don't see that. We just see folks that just say, I don't want it, I don't care, So if I were to approve this, we would have to significantly reduce the number of occupants for me to be on board. And even then, I don't know that addresses the parking issue. From what I can determine, you guys only have 2 legitimate parking spaces for yourself in the alley?
I would say that there is ample parking for more than 3, but 3 is what we applied for. It's a 15-foot by 66 feet. That's enough room to park a truck.
So privately, you can park 3 cars without it impeding any other neighboring properties?
Do I need to give my address again? Okay.
Yep.
So we have talked about the parking situation from the beginning. That was one of the things that a lot of people wouldn't purchase the house because of. There is, in this picture, you can see that there is a shed on the other side of the fence. We have discussed extensively possibly moving that shed and bringing the fence back, just so that it's more obvious to people who come, and then also marking where they can park. We are still very confused with this alleyway where at the end of everybody's property is. Like I had mentioned, there's telephone poles that are part of people's.
Let's do the telephone poles.
Yeah, so if we're going by the telephone poles, actually, we could have multiple cars parked, and they're more than the 3 that we discuss.
To go along with that, ample city parking as well. 2 houses down to the east, there's also ample parking, or to the north. But in any essence, there are ample parking.
Well, just to clarify, you're talking about still within parking that's set aside for this property, or you're talking about on-street parking?
For this property, for the back alley, we have designated 3 parking spots and plenty of room for those 3. Additional parking, if you were to say if there were to be a need for more than 3 parking spots for a guest, say there's a large gathering for an event, there's ample parking on the east side of the street on North Douglas and 17th Street. However, I think that amount of parking spaces is pretty adequate for our Airbnb. And Plaza District. Our Plaza District is walking distance from this property, so if a guest needs to find a better parking space, there's ample parking down 16th Street as well, down Plaza, which is pretty normal for a guest to want to go to Plaza District in this particular property. It's close enough to be able to walk. And those instructions to the guests are very clear as well. And we'll absolutely be checking on the property very, very, very frequently to be able to make sure that is being 100% honored as far as our rules. We have very strict rules that we'll ask our guests to follow. They're above and beyond what we have suggested on our application. They're more personal with the business. But as far as checking on guests, we absolutely do that with properties. We are available 24 hours a day as well.
Can I use this mic? Is that okay? Okay. For some context, yeah, everybody loves the plaza. It is a quarter mile from our house, between the property line, to the first thing in the plaza, which is the up-down. There's no parking on the street before that. No one wants to go to an Airbnb and park more than a quarter mile away, even if it's where you're going to go eat or go to the bar. And I think if you want to make it a good thing, yeah, I could have definitely gotten 15 friends in college when I was young and dumb and a 32-pack of Keystone Light and had a ruckus of a time. If you want to have a nice place, because the remodel looks nice. We love the Lux. We've been in their house a lot. The new pictures we've seen look great. But if it's going to be 16 people, $10 a person a night, that's pretty cheap. We would have 4 people at our house for $199 was like a special. We normally were doing $225 for 4 people in a 4-bedroom. And that scares us. For the people we've seen, and who are they going to be? And like we've said, the parties and celebrations, 16 people are going to show up in 3 cars. And in Oklahoma, that's usually an F-250. Some other wide cars. We have big cars and big streets, right? So seems like you're doing these things, but we're in the house for 9 months, and now we're applying for this, but all these things aren't in place that make it feel where it's like, okay, this is going to be comfortable,
Mr. Chairman, I've read the petition filed by Mr. Grimmett, who spoke earlier. May I ask him a couple of questions?
Sure.
Could
Mr.
you
Grimmett,
please
do you
come
mind coming back up?
Absolutely. Before we kick off, could I just say that petition was actually written by my wife, so occasionally there might be things that I don't have knowledge of.
Thank you for that. Okay, let me read. We see 2 citations have been issued with an arraignment, both set for October 4, 2024. However, even with citations issued, the Airbnb is still growing strong and new groups arrive every few days. But to get to maybe a resolution, let me also, you may want to comment on that. I was just curious about what those citations were, whether they were for noise or what have you. But in terms of maybe trying to get to a resolution, she also writes, if the application is approved, we request that the inclusion of the following restrictions. 1-year exception limited to 6 persons. Contact information for Mr. Volk will be answered 24 hours a day. Notification to guests that there are quiet hours between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. Trash receptacles will be taken to the curb not later than Wednesday afternoon and removed from the front yard no later than Thursday afternoon. And she mentions numerous contacts with the Action Center. Do you have any comments about any of the things that your wife wrote? Would you like to just give us some additional information to help us reach a decision?
If I may, I think that the criteria that she had asked for is relation to Mr. Volk's contact information being answered and the trash receptacles is all fairly self-explanatory. If I may, I would like to mention the Action Centre. After Taylor arrived and Taylor left and the construction got done, it became fairly obvious fairly quickly that we were living right next to a business. And we had wound up complaining to Ms. Hammond, who is our council representative, and she had mentioned the Action Centre, which I may say was quite a humorous experience based upon the fact that the Action Centre showed up and looked at the house and drove away again, and we received an email saying that they could find no evidence. The Airbnb has been going strong for approximately 6 months now, and we have at times been tolerant and at times been frustrated. I guess that I probably have not, I've done myself a disservice maybe by not communicating more with Taylor as it related to it. But sometimes it's better to say nothing than it is to say something harshly. Only under the assumption that, I mean, this truly is a business entity. It's not like it's a ski lodge in Colorado that he goes to in the winter and just, sometimes rents out to other people. After 4 direct contacts with the Action Centre and actually taking screenshots of the advertisement for the Airbnb, we got the Action Centre to agree that it was an Airbnb. This has taken up quite some of our time, let alone the fact that I stand here on a Thursday afternoon talking with you all. If there was a significantly reduced number of people in the house, and if it wasn't treated as an event centre, and if it was families coming and going at their convenience, that would be one thing. But up until this point, that has not really been the case. Large groups of people, I hand it to them. There has been no excessive stereo noise, but there has certainly been drinking to the extent that people are laying about in the front yard and things of such nature. I enjoy an ale from time to time myself, but the important thing is that, the following day I regret my decisions and I stay quiet for a week or so. This one just, a whole new group of Bob the Drinker turns up again the following day, or maybe it's not. Maybe there've been some really nice families that have come and stayed there. My problem is I never know who's going to be outside the front door. Like the cycle is fairly continuous. I haven't seen the books, but I would assume that we're probably running 3 large groups a week, something along those lines. Any further thoughts?
Thank you very much for your comments, sir.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
The way the house is situated on the plot of land, we do wish that we had a driveway that extended from 16th Street up to the alley. This property doesn't seem to have that ability. So I do wish we were able to offer more parking. And in the future, we are seriously going to lay out a map and with the permit department to move fence to make it even more profound for parking. Just future use of the property. We wish that it actually had that, and actually putting in a concrete pad would be really great for all purposes as far as the property value. The house to the east and west of us does have that driveway all the way through, and a little bit envious, but it is the property. The property was on the market for a long period of time, and that would be a very good reason why. But we are able to offer those 3 parking spots, and with plenty of space to probably be a 4th, but we're not going to even be able to do that. For the meeting purpose of the meeting, I think 3 is to say it provides enough space so that everyone is going to be able to drive through without question. And parking on Douglas and 17th is adequate if needed, but we do encourage them to use our parking the 3 vehicles. And as far as the rules and things, does the board have anything that we could talk about as far as providing rules?
Well, I will only speak for myself. As I previously alluded to, I would be denying this application, but for the conditions that were outlined as maybe a point of acceptability. And so I would approve it based off of those restrictions. Now, that significantly reduces you all's plans for the property. The other thing that I would consider is if you wanted to take your chances on continuing this, to have input from the other board members, that may help you, that may harm you. I can't speak for anybody else. But for me today, that's where I'm at. I would consider a continuance, or I would consider granting this subject to the additional restrictions that your neighbors have outlined.
You want to make a motion? What is your motion?
Do you guys have?
I was trying to think of I was thinking of something that I was going to say to alleviate some of the issues that the neighbors did highlight. One thing that we are going to do is to provide a minimum stay, which means that people are going to stay a longer period of time, which would alleviate any stresses as far as people coming for party purposes. Like, say people are coming together to celebrate just nothing, just party. And to alleviate that, I think longer stays would provide higher quality guests, a lot less noise, and people that are coming for purposes for business or to go to the fairgrounds has been a large part of properties for needing a place to stay for going to the fairgrounds or working is also something that has a great, really great pool of people that are looking for a house for those purposes too. So in essence, to alleviate partying or unnecessary loudness or stress on our neighbors, that's something that we are going to enact as from our business standpoint. It does address those noise complaints, and it's as far as being able to do that with our our experience with other properties that are about this size. We've been able to suggest that that's a lot better on the property as well. We have a lot less issues with anything that gets broken or paint. So just in general, it's a very nice property, and we want to try to maintain it. We did work very hard on the renovations.
We look forward to meeting with the neighbors. I personally can understand the not knowing of who's coming there. For us, we have lots of communications with guests, so they often tell us beforehand with the very first communication why they're coming into town, and there's various reasons. He had mentioned the fairgrounds. There's a lot of people with horse shows for some of the other properties that have room for them to have the big trucks. This property would not appeal to them. People who have come from movie crews and for like short films and just a lot of really cool things. We have people coming here to work in Oklahoma City. We have people coming here for conferences. It's pretty exciting. We have people coming here for events and graduations. And for us, it's pretty exciting to see them being able to utilize the property for such meaningful things. And we'd love to share how it's being utilized with the neighbors. So we do look forward to those conversations moving forward.
Anything else from the board? I think we're ready for a motion.
Right.
I would like to make a motion to approve case number 15712 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, subject to the self-imposed rules with the following modifications. This will be for a period of 1 year. Maximum number of guests to be 6, maximum number of vehicles to be 3, and quiet hours between 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. I vote yes, I don't have a screen panel. Okay, thank you.
And I will say, just to the neighbors, you guys are here, you have the notes of exactly what was approved, so there's no misunderstanding about what can and can't take place. And so now, I think you have the tools to go directly to the Action Center if you see anything outside of that. And to the applicant, I would say, this is a great opportunity to build the relationship with the neighbors and operate over the next year. And if you get these guys to come back in a year from now and say, this has been phenomenal, we haven't had any issues, I think that there could be some discussion about increasing the number of guests.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the board. Thank you, sir. And I certainly will be doing that with the neighbors. Thank you for your time on that.
Item number 15, case number 15713 is an application of Taylor Volk to allow home sharing at 1609 College Avenue.
Taylor Volk, 827 Northwest 17th Street, Oklahoma City. For this property, we have purchased the license, and we are seeking the home share exemption.
Can you tell me about the number of bedrooms in this property?
There are 5 bedrooms in this property. We have 1 king bed and 5 queens. We have 1 bedroom that is on the 3rd floor that has it's a very large room. It has a queen bed and a king bed up there. So there are 6 beds in this property. We put in this driveway and the sidewalk this year. We worked with there's a really great program where the homeowner would pay 50% and then the city pays 50% for a sidewalk. On this particular street, on College Avenue, off of 16th Street and College Avenue, we have 3 brand new buildings that are being erected. There used to be a plot of land for 1. The density in this area has increased. And this street's pretty busy with construction, but I think they're about to be finished. We renovated this property to be nice for our guests, and we provided the ample parking spaces so that we can have off-street parking to go along with our plans. And we hired the same contractor that did the concrete for the city. He did a great job on the driveway. And it looks a better condition than this picture, but this is where we did the application. We did a good job on landscape.
How many cars can fit in the drive?
The application, I believe it's 3. And for street parking right in the front of the house, I think there's probably enough room for 3 in front of the house as well, as far as availability. I don't expect that many cars, but it's available.
Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody who's left want to talk on this one? Anything from the board?
I think I'd be comfortable in this, reducing the number of guests to 10 with 5 bedrooms in a first-year application.
Is that a motion?
Are you guys okay with that?
I'm comfortable with that if you think that's necessary to be best for our community to provide 10 for this property. It can accommodate 12 comfortably, but with your experience, that would be acceptable if you feel it necessary, sir.
I think we're ready for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15713 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, subject to the self-imposed rules with the following modifications. This will be for a period of 1 year and a maximum of 10 guests with a maximum of 3 vehicles.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
So we're going back to item number 3, case number 15633 is Garrett Baker on behalf of Sean Lisenberry for a variance to lot size requirements for a mobile home in the R1 single family located at 4902 South Post Road. Now the history, the applicant's legal representation has not responded back to us because he advised us that they may try to change the application to a special exception for medical hardship. And he has never gotten back to us. And then when I called back, he was going to get with the applicant, and I reached out to both the applicant and the legal representative, and they're not here today. And they haven't sent any emails saying they wanted to withdraw. However, there are neighbors that are here today that came back. And so
I've got one
nothing's
person
changed.
signed up on this one. Mr. Dodd? Welcome back.
How y'all doing again today? I'm Roger Dodd, 4701 South Post Road. And so this thing's been going on for quite some time. And at this point, the trailer that they moved in there illegally is growing up around the outside of it. You can't see underneath it anymore. It's so grown up in weeds at this point. And so they're not mowing the property. The little well house, little white thing, the other day, about 2 weeks ago, on Saturday, he came in and took that out and then hooked a four-wheeler to the pump, you know, the line going down for the pump, and took that all out of the ground. So I kind of think that maybe he's finally figured out that it's time to find a different path here, but obviously he didn't show up today. He hasn't contacted the city or replied to the city in any way. I'd just like to close this, and if he wants to, he needs to get that moved. The problem is it's tied to the property, which his mother gifted him, right? So he's created his own hardship, which is not my problem. It's his problem. He shouldn't have done it to start with. If he had started here, he wouldn't be in those shoes, okay? So if he'd done the things that he was supposed to do, which is come to the city, then we wouldn't be in this process right now, because the trailer, he brought it in on a Thursday afternoon and tried to set it up. Well, they did set it up. You can see it's bolted together, but completely illegally, per city code and per, you know, all the city development and zoning. So I would prefer, and maybe he's working towards splitting the property from the trailer. He doesn't talk to us. We don't talk. You know, we're on 5-acre plots out there. We don't talk to our neighbors a whole lot, and that's why we live on 5-acre plots. So I don't have to talk to anybody, and here I am. But like I say, I would just like to close this thing, because every time we're having to show up and the guy doesn't respond to y'all whenever you call. When Cynthia calls, he doesn't respond. What does he expect? You know, at some point it's like, get your stuff and let's get it moved out of there. All right, and do it the right way. Come in here the way you're supposed to, up front. Request the variance up front before you go by and put something up. So that's where I'm at with it. I've sat here all day listening to these cases. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's an interesting process.
Very polite.
My patience is, I'm probably up to here on this guy, you know, but the fact that he jerked the well out, and that kind of concerns us too, because, you know, that's kind of a rogue move, you know, just to hook it up to a four-wheeler. I've pulled wells, I've done work my whole life, but we never did it with a four-wheeler and drug it out of the hole.
We're all on the same water.
That's right, we're on the same water table, and we don't want, and yeah, and his mother's on that water table too, so, but, you know, and the city is running pipe up Post Road. That's one of the things the city is doing. Soon, they're working on it now. They're starting on 74th and Douglas and bringing it across a mile, and then they're going to come up Post Road when they widen Post to a 3-lane. So that's in the city plans and funded. So eventually we're going to be on city water, but I just don't, you know, I think the guy ought to be more responsive to the city. If this is really what he wanted, he ought to show up with a better excuse than I did I did this on my own without talking to you up front. We just built a house, and I started here at the city, and we went rounds and rounds over across the street to ensure that we met all the city codes whenever we built. So, to me, it's not that difficult. Everybody's reasonable over there. So that's where I'm at with it. I showed up, I sat through this. I thought maybe the guy would show up and we could, but he didn't. So what do y'all plan to do? You know, at this point, what do you do?
Unless there's anything else from the board, and you're the only ones who signed up to speak on this one, is there anybody else in the room who wants to address this application? Then I think we're ready for a motion.
Well, I just want to get clarification from staff, because I remember this, we had this come before us a couple times, and it was quite complex. Was the last correspondence that they were, correct me if I'm wrong, was the last correspondence that they were going to try to revise the application? They were going to go the medical hardship route?
They were going to make a decision if that's what they were going to do. However, the mobile home has to be behind the rear wall of the main structure, and it's not placed properly to meet that requirement.
Well, wasn't that the issue, that whether or not they needed to revise the application, because this would be the body that would grant a variance to that requirement? Have you did they get with you after the last meeting? Like, had you been in communication with their counsel?
I asked him if he was what his intentions with the application, and he says, I have not heard from my applicant, and I will get back with you, and they have not done that.
Okay.
So the applicant nor the legal representative has said anything?
No.
And how long ago was that?
Well, our last meeting was July 18th, so it was prior to me making this staff report, which was
In June, right? Yeah, it was the June 16th meeting that was decided, and it got pushed to this one because July 1st was going to be a short meeting, and they knew they wouldn't have time, the 20 days, to get their documentation in, so they pushed it to this meeting, in which then they didn't show up and have not contacted you. So,
My only concern is the fact that you didn't hear back from counsel. Like, I can understand the applicant, getting emotional or, not fully understanding the process or dropping the ball, but there's a different standard that we've come to expect from the legal representatives. And so just because of that, I would like to make sure that there's not some extenuating circumstance or something like that. It sounds like, if this guy's drug off the pump and started to damage the property in some way, that maybe they're not going to do anything. But I would at least have thought that you would have received correspondence from his representative stating that. So,
well, last Friday I sent out the reminder of the meeting with the agenda and the link, and so they would have gotten an email, which could have prompted him, oh, there's a meeting on August 1st if I forgot, but still didn't receive anything.
well, personally, I would like to have other members here on this because it's something that they've heard a couple times. But I completely I also agree with the sentiment that, not hearing any correspondence and not showing up, that's something that never bodes well with me. But given the complex structure of this particular case, I would like to at least continue it 2 weeks to see if, you hear some correspondence from his attorney.
Can I just kind of speak on that? This thing, when did it start, Cynthia? How many months ago? This has been going on for months, and it's not resolved, and what we have now is what we expected, is a trailer house sitting across the street from us, grown up in weeds that are, like I said, the skirt of that trailer is probably 30 inches, right? And you can't see underneath that trailer right now. So they're not taking, which is what I expected, right? And this is why the zoning codes are what, this is why they were in place, is because of this problem, okay? Not taking care of the place, typical. They're probably stretched thin on funding, which I could understand, I've been there. But at least you could do is go mow your place and make it presentable. You know, if you're fighting your case, do everything up front that you can to provide and show your neighbors that, hey, I'm gonna take care of this place, I'm gonna do everything I can to make you wrong, that you would question me, okay? So that's why I think it needs to be resolved in the fact that they broke the city code to start with, or law, whatever we call the zoning ordinances. That was broken to start with, okay? This board really should have been, I want to move my trailer on a 2-acre lot. Is that okay? And you would say, no, that's not okay because our neighbors don't think it's, you know, it wrecks my property value and everybody around us. All right? And at that point, the guy could have said, all right, I need to go find another place to park my trailer, which there are trailer parks within a couple of miles, which my wife grew up in one. So it's not like, and whenever that trailer park closed, you know what her dad did? He hooked it up to a tractor and moved that trailer across the street to another trailer park. And there's nothing wrong with those, okay? There's good people. So that should be his option, is get his trailer and let's move it someplace where it belongs, all right? Not on a street, on these acreages where you can see, okay? So.
Can I speak right quick?
Yeah.
Come up to the mic.
Yeah, give us name and address.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm Candace Dodd, and I live at 4701 South Post Road. I think our concern is even broader than that, in that the city set up the ordinance for a 5-acre plot for a mobile home for a reason. He's asking for not 4.5 acres or 3.5, he's asking for 2-acre exception, right? He wants to move this mobile home, or he's already moved the mobile home, onto an acreage that's much smaller, which is going to set a precedence, and it's going to create a problem for all of Oklahoma City, in that that precedence has been set. Now you've got people moving in right next door to you when, you know, you moved in under good faith that these were going to be nice, established homes on acreages, and we chose to live there for that reason. I mean, we chose this location. Furthermore, we have done nothing wrong. We haven't broken any rules. As my husband said, when we built our house, we came to the city first. We asked for permission, and then we followed all the codes accordingly. And we are having to take leave from work to chase this gentleman's application. We had to hire an attorney because we had a long-planned vacation on June 6th, so we couldn't come in person. And so we had to hire an attorney to be here present for us, to represent for us, which was thousands of dollars, to be quite honest. So we're out money, we're out time from work, time that we would otherwise be spending with family if we were to take PTO, because this gentleman's broken the rules. And with no regard to anyone else's time or effort, or the rules or the city ordinances at all. So it's a problem, and to know that that type of person is going to be added to our community because he's caused this hardship for himself does not help. I mean, it doesn't make his actions okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I've read all the materials, and I've listened to the citizens who've come forward. I also have heard from our staff that they've reached out to legal counsel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard you say that legal counsel said that he had not heard from his client. That tells me a lot. All of those things together tell me a lot, and I think we ought to, and I'd be interested in having our legal counsel say something different, but I think we ought to deny the variance at this point. And if he chooses to start over, then there are maybe avenues. What are those avenues? Would that be inappropriate at this time?
The item is on your agenda. The item is on your agenda. There's no reason to not consider it. You certainly could do that. Sorry about that. Because the item is on your agenda, you certainly are allowed to consider it, and if you chose to deny it, notice was properly given, correct, Cindy?
Correct.
So notice was given, party had an opportunity to appear in person or through counsel. Parties that aren't here have not announced themselves, so you're free to consider the matter if that's what you choose.
And I might add one more thing. He was the one that set this date to be here, right? Because you had one in July 18th or something like that?
Well, we had one
July-
June 20th, and it was continued to August.
Yeah, but
1.
there was another meeting that that the board had,
July.
and he chose to push it to this one. So
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be,
If I remember correctly, that was an issue, we were trying to, do we have board minutes from that meeting?
If you give me a minute, I'll look for that case. I'll just take notes to be sure. No, I don't have anything. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong agenda.
I just want to make sure that it wasn't a situation where we were encouraging a continuance and had a hard time finding a date for it to be continued. And because we've heard this case a couple of times, I may be getting them mixed up, but I understand that we received some pushback from the applicant initially in continuing it just to begin with, just because of the financial hardship. And so that's really where I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time feeling like that to any degree we may have, obviously we didn't force him to, but that against his initial wishes to have us make a ruling on it to begin with, they went ahead and agreed to continue. And then now, when they're not here, we're going to actually take action on the matter when we alluded to the possibility that there may be some other alternative solutions.
So the question to consider is whether or not notice was sent, and was notice sent, Cindy?
Well, original notice was sent, but every time a new meeting adheres, there's not a new notice sent out. However, they're at the meeting, and
That was the second question. Was the applicant at the last meeting to be aware that this was the meeting at which the application would be heard?
I thought he was here, and I thought the 1-month continuance was so they could explore medical hardship and then a variance because of the location.
and we only had one meeting in July. I believe that's why it got
So this is
pushed.
the one, and then the attorney that you contacted has indicated no contact from the
Well,
applicant.
I reached out to him to find out if he was going to pursue the medical hardship. And he said, I'll have to get back with you. I haven't heard from my applicant. And I
Okay.
tried calling the applicant, and I'm not getting it, so.
Yeah, I'm starting to remember, and the applicant actually left the meeting before we gave the new date.
Left rather suddenly.
Yes.
But it was a public meeting. I'm tempted to, I can't make a motion.
Well, and I'm just for discussion with you all, I think that it should be continued. That being said, if you all feel, I don't want us to get hung on this, so if you all feel strongly that we need to make a determination on it regardless, then I will support a motion to that effect.
Well, let me speak on this because I think even though I've just joined the board, I have read all of the materials and had discussions in my orientation about just being made aware that this was coming forward. I've listened to these neighbors who've taken time off and heard what they've said. And also, if the applicant had legal representation, then that's the opportunity for them to be represented. You know, just as we've heard these applicants who have, I'm sorry, not these applicants, but these neighbors, these citizens who were scheduled to be away, they've undertaken expenses to hire someone to represent them. So the fact, you know, if it were the applicant representing himself or herself pro se, that would be one thing, but they had legal representation. And that legal representative has a high ethical duty to, you know, appear and represent the interest of their clients. So we've had ample discussion that notice was given, and, you know, they've taken some actions that, you know, and it's you know, that could impact property values in the area, et cetera. And not that that's our sole criteria, but I'm comfortable that notice has been given. And I move to deny the variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the variance. Cast your votes. Denied.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thank you, Ms. Mitchelson, for you're doing the right thing up there. Thank you.
So item number 4 is case number 15684, a renewal application of Douglas Lister and Jamie Day Lister to allow home sharing located at 1615 North Marion Avenue.
Hello.
Give us your name and address and tell us
My
a little
name
bit
is
about...
Doug Lister, and I live in 1718 Runway Boulevard, Oklahoma City. And I apologize for my mom not being here to represent my case.
How many bedrooms is the home?
2?
2?
So I want to publicly state on record that I own property in the neighborhood. I do not feel that it impacts my ability to render a fair and unbiased opinion on this, but I did want to make sure that for the record that it is stated.
Nobody signed up to speak on this one, and it doesn't look like anybody in the audience wants to speak. So anything else from the board? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll make the following modification if you're okay with it. Just, you've got 4 bedrooms and 10 guests. I'll reduce that. I'll make a motion for the maximum number of guests to be 8, 2 for each bedroom. And then we typically do these applications for a period of 1 year on a, excuse me, you've got a renewal, so we will do this on a 3-year renewal. Are you fine with that?
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15684 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, subject to the self-imposed rules, with the following modification, which will be for a period of 3 years with the maximum number of guests to be 8.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Thank you for your time and service.
Hang on, you got to write out the vote. Okay, now you're approved.
Thank you for your time and service.
Okay. All right. I don't have any additional items. We don't have any board committees. Anybody want to say anything? Rita? Citizens to be heard. I don't have any other business. Adjourn.